Welcome back to Live with, brought to you by Species Nutrition. I'm Dave Palumbo, and today's guest needs no introduction. He's a good friend of mine. He's a friend to the show. He's been here before. He'll be back again. Bostin Loyd. I know you must have something to talk about if you texted me you want to come on.
Yeah, well, the whole thing started was, as you know, I'm pretty controversial, or, in the past, and usually I like to make posts about this stuff. I like to do an in-depth post, and people will go back and forth with each other. And I've had several instances, Dave, within the last, I want to say 6 to 8 months, where there's things that have happened in the bodybuilding world that I've wanted to make posts about. In fact, one time I even wrote a whole post out when I was on my cardio.
Right.
And I ended up not doing it. And the reason why is because I get so engaged with these posts. Like, I respond to everyone. I engage in it. And, like, one day before I was going to make a post, I looked at Jackson, and I said, you know what? When my head's buried in my phone for 4 hours, I'm taken away from him. And it's not something I could help. When I make a post and everyone goes wild, it draws my attention, and I'm completely engaged in it, which it takes away time from him. So I'm thankful that you have this show and you let me on it where I could come on here and explain what I wanted to talk about. Because, like I said, usually I'll just go crazy and make posts. Then that takes hours out of my day. And
then you got to argue with every knucklehead who goes on there and wants to argue with you.
It doesn't affect me like that, but I don't really care what people say on the internet. But I do like to respond. I do like to engage. And for my head to be in my phone when I could be spending time, and like you're a dad, you know how it is. So yeah, all this shit's going on, and the main topic I want to talk about today is deaths in bodybuilding, because I watch all your RX videos, or a majority of them, at night when I'm like having my last meal. And you got Sean Ray, saying that Chad Nichols is killing people. Then you had Matt Jansen on your show the other day, saying he had no idea what Dallas was taking and all this shit, and what's actually causing the deaths in bodybuilding. And I don't think people realize. And when I got started in bodybuilding, I thought it was just steroids. I thought, I started off with taking 1 to 2 steroid shots a week. You know what I mean? And that's when I think I was 18 years old when I started my first injectable cycle. And I thought to be a great bodybuilder, or what all bodybuilders were doing, was just steroids. I thought that was the end-all drug, right? So then, I started getting going and stuff like that. And then I realized you got steroids, and then you go to growth hormone, and then you go to insulin, and then you go to IGF, and then you go to peptides. And then all these other drugs are coming out. Then you got people using EPO, which is super dangerous. There's so many drugs involved in bodybuilding. Bodybuilders do not take just steroids. So if there was all these people dying at early ages, yeah, you could say, wow, steroids are really contributing to these early deaths. And I would agree with that if that was the case. But these guys are taking everything under the sun. And then on top of that, a good amount of these bodybuilders that I've recently talked to and stuff are using recreational drugs on top of that.
Right. Some
do cocaine. I know there was a kid that just died recently that was, had a heroin overdose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a variety of these drugs, and everyone thinks, oh, steroids, it's steroids, and steroids could definitely possibly, in the long term, shorten your life, because if you use them in excess or whatever like that. But the only time you could really blame a death on steroids is if somebody was taking a shot of, let's say, test or something, and they dropped dead during a testosterone shot.
Right.
Then you could be like, okay, the steroids killed them. But that's just simply not the case. And I'm sure you would agree with that. And I think that's the point that John Romano is getting at, is it's not really steroids that you could really blame, because these guys are taking everything under the sun, you know what I mean? And I'm a prime example. Like, you prepped me in 2013, right?
Yeah.
I followed your diet to a T. I followed your training to a T. But then I took 2 times the amount of drugs you wanted me to take.
Right.
So if something happened to me in prep, is everyone going to point fingers at Dave Palumbo and say, oh, Dave put him in the hospital, or Dave killed him? No. And I know if I personally was taking more drugs than my coach was telling me, probably a good majority of these people now that, hire, these top gurus are probably taking more than they're supposed to. You know what I mean?
I mean, everyone knows Bostin Loyd takes a lot of drugs. So I mean, probably people wouldn't blame me. They would probably say, well, Dave probably saved, Bostin. But like for like a lot of these guys, they don't really talk about it. So like, I mean, do you think it's the coach's fault, or do you think it's the bodybuilders that are doing it on their own?
I don't. That's the thing I wanted to say on the show, because Nick Trigili, I don't see eye to eye with him at all. I don't see eye to eye with Matt Jansen at all. There's only a few people in this industry that I think are actually really genuine, and they're not just money driven. And I would say you are one of those people, along with John Meadows. Right. And I don't see eye to eye with a lot of these guys. I think a lot of them they have ulterior motives on what they're saying and what they're doing and what they're preaching. But I don't think you could ever blame a death on a coach, because first of all, you don't know what the athlete's doing.
Right.
You don't know what other drugs the athlete's doing. And first of all, you have to be smart enough to research what you are doing. Now, Ariella brought up a good point in the car, because I told her I wanted to do this show with you. And she said, but what do you think about coaches that do these crazy diuretic protocols and have deaths? And you actually trained a coach. You're actually his mentor. I would like to think you were his mentor. He's an older guy, but you trained him, and he's supposedly the women's physique guru, best guru, right?
Right.
For women's physique girls. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to give him any credit on here and talk about I'm not going to put his name out there, but you know who I'm talking about. And he has had multiple girls that I've actually had corresponded with take aldactone for a full month, okay?
Yeah.
Before their show. And then he hammers them with Diazide the last couple days. And he had a female that just died a day or two after the Tampa Pro.
Right.
Now, Ariella said, boss, like, what do you think about that? Do you blame the coach for that person's death because they gave them an absurd diuretic protocol? And that's a hard one. I don't even know how to answer that, because I don't want to put a death on anyone. And I would hope that the athlete would research it and say, you know what, taking aldactone or taking a diuretic for a full month is just that's not smart.
Crazy.
And this guy is doing this with a lot of girls. It's not just one
really?
or two.
The problem with taking aldactone for a long period of time and then adding Diazide on top of that, and I don't know for certain that the person you're talking about actually did this, but let's assume he did, is that you get a ridiculous potassium build up in your system.
Yeah.
And high potassium can definitely cause your heart to stop. So we know that. So you don't want to mess with potassium levels in the body.
I did not ask the females, if he had them doing potassium, so I don't know that.
You don't even need to take potassium. The diuretics themselves make you retain potassium. Aldactone is potassium sparing, Diazide is potassium sparing.
You're saying you shouldn't have done that, yeah.
Now, if you're carving up on potatoes, which have a lot of potassium, that can certainly exacerbate the problem,
Yeah, so like I said, the chick, she did the Tampa Pro, and she passed away a day or two later. Her heart stopped. Her family found her or whatever.
Crazy. Wow.
And she was like a young girl. I think she was like late 20s, early 30s. You actually had posted about her. But he was having these girls do aldactone for a full month, and I think that's just these guys shouldn't do it. So when I hear Nick Trigili blaming the death of Dallas McCarver and Matt Jansen, I really shake my head, because Dallas McCarver worked with 4 or 5 different coaches in his career, and one of them was John O'Regan, who I worked with. Yeah. And John O'Regan even came down to California, and he was with me for a while, and we talked about the cycles that he was having guys like Dallas do, and he was having them already on 2-3 grams of testosterone, massive amounts of IGF and GH, and all this stuff. So all this stuff, accumulation over the years and stuff like that. Then he goes to a different coach. Then he goes to Matt Jansen, and then he goes back to Chad Nichols. And Chad Nichols even said in the interview with Valuetainment, when he took Dallas McCarver from Matt Jansen, he cut his doses in half, which I actually do believe, because I have seen Chad Nichols' protocols. So I'm actually want to talk about Chad Nichols' protocols on here. And me and Chad text sometimes, and I'm super honest. Chad doesn't even know I'm even talking about this today. I haven't even talked to him in a couple weeks.
Right.
But I've seen his protocols for multiple peoples, including a pro and a few amateurs. So I want to go over this. And his protocols are very similar to yours. There is nothing crazy in his protocols. Yes, he likes to use a lot of IGF. He uses a little bit more growth hormone than you. But when we're talking strictly anabolics,
right.
he's pretty moderate. He's just like you, and he's I don't know what he does with the diuretics at the extreme levels, but I know he's a big fan of Dimidex, which is a loop diuretic, kind of similar to Lasix. He's a big fan of that. I don't know how much he has his guys use or how long he has his guys use, but that's his thing. And like for Sean Ray to say he's killing all these people is absolutely absurd, because these guys were working with multiple coaches before them. So what I want to say about Dallas is he was working with John O'Regan. He was working with all these people. And now all of a sudden, Matt starts training him again for a couple months. And, he passes away. And you're going to say, oh, it was Matt. It was Matt.
Well, I think that the important thing, Boston, to point out is that we actually have a cause of death on Dallas. He had a 90% blockage in one of his coronary arteries. Matt Jensen, Chad Nichols, John O'Regan, they didn't cause that, okay? That was a genetic predisposition to lay down plaque in an artery, okay, of the heart at a super young age. That's a genetic weakness that he had. Now, being 330 pounds on top of that and not going to the doctor and addressing it, even though he had symptoms on that Arnold Australia stage, was stupid on his part, because had he gone for a cardiac CT or a follow-up study after passing out on that stage, they would have found the blockage and they could have put a stent in there and he would still be alive. So I kind of blame him for that, but at this point, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. He's not here. We lost a really good guy.
You blame Jansen or you blame Dallas?
No, I blame Dallas. Dallas could have gone. I mean, it's his own body. He knew he didn't feel good. He knew he passed out on stage. He was
claiming on social media that he got blood work, and you're right. He went from like 260 to 270 pounds to 340 in like 6 months.
Right, but that's not why he died. He died because he had a blockage.
I'm not saying that, but a weight fluctuation like that stresses out the heart.
Yeah, of course, and the oxygen demand is higher. But you would think after what happened in Australia, where he did pass out on stage essentially, and he went, he had high troponin levels from what I hear, which would indicate that he had a little bit of heart damage, which would imply that there was some kind of a blockage and lack of oxygen to the heart. Wouldn't you go for a full workup at that point, whether it be an angiogram or it be a cardiac CT scan to check what the hell's going on? I mean, and then if there is something going on, address it. He didn't have to retire from bodybuilding, but he certainly should have addressed the fact that he had a blockage. I know guys that have stents in their heart and they compete.
You know how it is though, Dave. He was young. He was my age.
Yeah.
He was goal driven. His eye was on being the best in the world, and he didn't want anything in his way. And when these bodybuilders, including myself, they get these blood work done and they see these tests, it scares them. So a lot of these people would rather just not see the blood work. I'm one of those people that I could 100% attest for that, because I know that my blood work's going to look like shit. I don't want to see it. So
right, but if you almost passed out on stage and you had heart some kind of pain in the chest region and something didn't feel right, I think you'd want to know what was wrong with you, wouldn't you?
It's hard to say if I was in his shoes at that level. It's hard to say, but I do say this. When people say...
You love diagnostic tests, though. You love it. Yeah, even though you hate to see the results, you do like to go for them. I know that.
So the thing is I know a lot of these people that always are preaching blood work. And, like, blood work can tell you, like, your markers for, like, long-term stuff. Like, usually if you keep your blood pressure in check, if you keep, certain vitals in check, this is going to help your life in the long term.
I don't normally send 26-year-olds for cardiac CT scans because I don't think it's necessary. But if you're having heart problems or if you had an issue like he had on stage, I would certainly think that would warrant getting that investigated,
Correct, but what I'm saying is blood work's not going to tell you everything, just plain blood work.
No, that's why you got to go for these scans, echocardiograms and stuff like that.
Which is not going to kill you right away, right? Your blood work could be fucking the worst in the world, and it's not going to kill you right away.
Well, it could be perfect too, his blood work, and he still could be, have a 90% blockage in his coronary.
That's what I'm saying. So then a guy could get blood work posted on Instagram saying, "Look how healthy I am," but then he has like a blockage or whatever. And that's one thing that I can't stand, Dave. And this is like a new trend on social media, is these bodybuilders abusing drugs for 9 months out of the year. They come off the gear, They get their blood work done like 2 days before they get back on gear. So let's say they take 3 months off, and they take their blood work right before they get back on.
Yeah.
Their test levels are like 300 to 500. Their lipids are perfect. Their estrogen's perfect. Everything on the blood work is perfect, right? And then they post on social media, say, who says bodybuilding isn't healthy? Like, look at my blood work. It's like, listen, man, 9 months out of the year, you were toxic as fuck probably. And then you take this time off, you let your body recover, and you're fine. So I hate when people do that.
Yeah, but at least they're doing it. Some guys will never go off, right? At least these guys are going off and cleaning out. That's a good sign. Let their bodies get back to normal.
If I even came off completely for 11 weeks.
I don't think you can handle it.
No, I did. I came off everything, even growth hormone. No,
really?
Not even CRT. I came off everything, and I lasted 11 weeks. So if I could last 11 weeks, I'm sure some of these guys have came off and gave their body some time. And you know what? If they didn't come off, they probably did something like a TRT regimen, right?
Yeah.
So I want to touch on the Chad Nichols thing too.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, Chad Nichols, oh, his protocols are crazy. So Dave, there is one thing that stands out in Chad Nichols' protocols that I have not seen in any other protocol from any other coach.
Okay.
And I want to bring this up to you because a lot of his athletes seem to have some kidney problems, right? And this is quite apparent, right? So he has his clients do, and I'm not even sure what he had guys that are weighing 300 pounds do, because these are guys that are like 250, 260. These are the programs that I've seen him design for people.
But by the way, I got to stop you for a minute before you tell us. I'll let people hang on the edge a little bit here. Boston knows what every coach gives every person. You made it your mission in life to find out what every coach is recommending. If you want to know a cycle for Matt Jensen or a cycle for this Nick Trigil, just ask Boston. Boston knows everyone's cycles.
I have everyone's cycle except one coach, Dave, and that's Hani Rambod, and that's because, I don't think Hani likes to put stuff on email.
Call Seth Feroci, he'll tell you.
Well, I don't think Hani likes to put things on paper. Now, I did know a teen bodybuilder that Hani helped. He won the Teen Cal, and this kid was phenomenal, Dave. He could have been a pro at 19. He was phenomenal. Hani was helping him. Sick genetics. His dad was a doctor. His name was Seth Sandler, and he had Hani help him. And Hani is like super anal with his stuff. And he told me a cycle, and he was 19 years old. It was nothing crazy, but that's the only guy that I do not have a cycle. But as far as all the other guys, man, I've either paid for programs or they've actually coached me myself. So I've worked with a lot of these guys in my younger years because I was so intrigued in what these guys were doing. And that's a big reason why I've learned. I've taken little bits and pieces of information from all these coaches. So there's one thing that Chad does that I've never seen any coach do. And his protein, he has his guys do 12 to 14 ounces of cooked protein 7 times a day.
It's a lot of protein.
So I don't think protein in the short term is going to really probably fuck you up that bad. But if you have a guy that's doing 12 to 14 ounces of protein for years on end, that could possibly be more even dangerous than the anabolics itself on the kidney function. Would you agree?
Yeah, it's possible. It's a shitload of protein. That's for sure. That's like almost 100 grams of protein per meal.
Well,
so.
we calculated it. Me and my buddy that work with him. He had him the kid's body weight He started out with Chad at 226 pounds. He ended up a very sloppy 310, I want to say. Yeah. And Chad started him off on 720 grams of protein.
Oof, that's too much, yeah.
And the kid only weighed 226.
Yeah, that's way too much.
So, and this is an amateur. So, the drugs were normal. They were exactly what you prescribed, maybe a little bit more growth hormone. He would have his guys do 6 to 8 units of GH. You have your guys do, I think, 4 to 6.
Yeah.
So just a little bit more growth and a little bit more IGF and stuff. But other than that, it's very similar to what you have your guys.
So you think it's the food, the protein?
So I would like to actually have him address that. I would like to see if he thinks that the protein is causing some of these issues with his athletes. Mm-hmm. because it's not just his pros. I've had a couple guys that have worked with him that said during that time period of that crazy protein, they got blood work done and their kidney functions were off.
Right.
So that's the only thing. That's the only thing that stands out. I've seen George Farah's plans because I worked with George briefly. 5 to 6 ounces of protein. You are about 7 to 8 ounces of protein.
Yeah.
I haven't seen really that before, where a guy's eating 12 to 14 ounces 7 times a day.
I don't even know how you do it. That would be almost nauseating to do that.
I mean, did you do that back in the day?
Never. It was nauseating. I couldn't have gotten that much down. I drank a lot of shakes, but I couldn't eat that much. I never could have eaten 14 ounces, every single meal. That would have been too much.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think that right there should be looked at, because I'm not, and that's food, Dave. We're not talking about drugs.
Yeah.
We're talking food. You know what I mean? So
look, everything that the digestive system can be stressed by other things other than drugs. Like you said, having to deaminate all that protein in the liver and then flush it out with the kidneys. That's a lot of nitrogenous waste that the body has to process, and then
on top of that, you add drugs in like Tren and D-bol and Anadrol, and if you're taking some of these, it's a combination of crazy high food with toxic drugs. It's probably not the best on your kidneys.
Yeah. So and you know what? Certain people can handle it better than others. Just like some people could handle more or less drugs. I know guys that can take Anadrols and eat them. Exactly. Like Jimmy Pilecki could eat 8 Anadrols a day and eat food and be fine. I took a half Anadrol a day back in the day, and I just didn't. I couldn't eat. I felt terrible. I had every negative side effect from it you could possibly get.
I remember you did that video with Jimmy Pilecki, and he even told me when he was on all those Anadrols, all he was eating was hot dogs. So he did. He said that. He said he would just eat hot dogs.
He ate hot dogs even when he wasn't on Anadrol, though.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, even if your appetite sucks, it's easy to eat a fucking hot dog, right? It's eating the clean food that's hard when you're on the orals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And like I said, Dave, I've abused drugs more than probably 99.9% of bodybuilders.
Very honest approach by Boston, yeah.
And I've had bad blood work. I've had very bad blood work, but I've never had any kind of. I've never had to be hospitalized. And shit, Dave, I reuse needles till they're dull. I'll reuse them for a month. I reuse syringes till they break, and I reuse needles until they get so dull I can't even penetrate.
Now, why is that? You're just too lazy to open a new one, or you don't have enough?
It's OCD. If I know I can get another use out of it, I'll continue to use it.
But what are you saving money for? You don't save money on anything else.
Dave, I have a needle sponsor.
Right.
And I have a syringe sponsor who sends me free needles and free shit. And I still reuse because I hate wasting. So, and first of all, Dave, with the amount of injections that I've done or that I do at certain times, if I was to reuse a needle every time or a new syringe,
I understand, yeah.
Dave, I would have garbage bags after garbage bag after garbage bag. And I don't want to continue to throw away like gear in my trash. So if I reuse all these ancillaries, like fucking, shit, I don't have to throw away all this stuff. So on top of that, and like I said, I don't know if I'm since I've gotten 2 infections, I don't know if my body's just immune now, because I shoot the dirtiest shit, Dave.
Don't say that.
No, people send me gear that's not filtered and shit, and they'll be like, make sure to sterilize it. And I'm like, fuck that. And I'll shoot it. And then I won't have any issues. But I'm saying a lot of people, like you said, it's all person dependent. Some person, like me, my liver enzymes, no matter how much shit I take, do not get elevated. Really? Another guy could take some shit and his liver goes crazy on just like Anavar. So everyone's different, you know what I mean? So, and like I said, do all of Chad's clients have kidney issues? No. But a certain amount of them have, that Sean really like to point out, and he wants to point at drugs. It's drugs. It's drugs, and that's just dumb, I mean,
I think Sean was pointing out not just the drugs, but the coaching in general. So that might include, the diuretics. It might include just water restriction, carving up. So it could include anything. But yeah, it's impossible to prove cause and effect. Now let me ask you a question. How old are you now?
Turning 28 in March.
Okay, so you're approaching 30, obviously, when things start to break down in your body. Are you
I feel
worried
like-
by all the drugs that you've done since you're a teenager, up, probably the last 10 years? Are you worried that you might have done some damage to your body moving forward?
It's funny that you asked me that question. I wanted to touch on this. So when I was in my 21, 22, 23, you don't even fucking think about your health.
Of course not.
Right? So that's another thing I want to point out is there's a difference between, I don't even know, Dave, and this is actually a question I'm going to ask you, but I'll answer your question first. As I get older, it has nothing to do with having a kid either, okay? Mm-hmm. So this is me just being honest. As I gotten older, I noticed I can't handle the drugs as good. When I was 21, Dave, I could handle everything. I could pound my shit with CC after CC after CC, it'd be fine. Now I get toxic easier. I get tired.
You're all getting old.
I feel my body like saying, hey, this is too much. So, yes, I do. And because I do have a kid, you think about not just because of that, you're like, hey, like now if something happens to me, my kid is forever affected, right? So that is in my mind. But saying that, I'm an addict. I'm 100% a fucking addict. So even though it's in my mind, Dave, and I think about it, I still do it.
Right.
And I will continue to do it until I grow out of it, because that's the only way out of it. It's not something that you could say, you know what, I'm done. But hey, if something traumatic happened in my life and I had a heart attack and I somehow survived, hey, that might change me for life. I might say, fuck, I'm done with all this shit. But as far as right now, I'm 100% an addict, and I think most bodybuilders are addicts, but they're closet addicts. They don't like to admit it. Because listen, drugs are drugs. Whether you take cocaine, steroids, heroin, and whether you feel like you need to take them, which I feel like I need to take them, that's addiction, right?
Yeah.
So I hate when bodybuilders say, oh, well, that coach recommends all those drugs. Well, oh, that coach recommends, oh, he's doing better on stage because he takes a ton of drugs or all this shit. But hey, I'll tell you this. Do cocaine users say, oh, I only take cocaine on the weekends, but, oh, that guy's a fucking abuser. He takes it every day. No, they're still fucking drug addicts, okay? So, like, I don't understand the whole bodybuilding thing of, oh, I got away and I was on the Olympia stage and I only took 500 mgs a test and these other guys are taking so much, like they're superior. It's like, no, you're all drug addicts. Like, it's the same. Do you agree, though, to an extent?
Yeah, I mean, it's hypocritical to like start comparing with other people. Now, if you're 100% natural bodybuilder, which there aren't very many out there, you actually have a horse to stand on, so to speak, to say, look, I'm natural. I did it. I made it to. I mean, like take a guy like Artie Caldwell, who won a pro show in classic physique, went to the Olympia, all natural for life. I've had him on the show before. I know he's listening to this. He watches all the programming. He could actually say, hey, you know what? I beat these guys. They're all on drugs. I'm the only one who's not on drugs, because he probably is. I'm not the only one. But
when you say natural, this guy is not taking like pro hormones or anything,
nope,
right?
Nothing. No, he's clean. I believe it. And
okay.
But he said, I don't have anything against people who take drugs. He's like, I just choose in my life not to use them. And that I respect that. I respect that. If anyone has but I'm saying if anyone had the ability to go point fingers, it would be him, and he doesn't even care. He's like, I don't care what anyone else takes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't affect me. This is the rules that I live by. So, is bodybuilding dangerous at a certain level? Sure. Because like you said, Boston, you could do no drugs, but if you're eating 700 grams of protein a day, you're still subjecting your body to, a lot of toxicity that the normal person wouldn't have in their life.
Dave, take drugs out of the program. Bodybuilding is still not the healthiest thing in the world, even if you're natural. Like, you're still beating your body up. If you're training crazy, heavy, and hard, you're beating your tendons up. The whole lifestyle in general, even without the drugs, is not the best thing in the world for you. And I'm saying resistance training itself is amazing. I'm talking about hardcore bodybuilding. Sure. If you were a natural.
I understand.
Yeah, so like and Dave, nobody knows what you're taking except yourself, okay?
Right.
I could be lying about what I take. He could be lying about what he takes. The only person that really knows is yourself. Nobody's holding my hand. Fuck, Ariella doesn't even know what I take. I go in my fucking steroid room and I just shoot a bunch of shit. She doesn't know what I'm taking. And Dave, this is the
steroid room. Boston has a room, not a closet or a drawer, but he has a room in his house.
Yeah, 'cause I want to keep it, all in the same room. But like, I'll give you an example, Dave. Like, I was getting ready for like a leg day a couple weeks ago, right? I have my steroid room. I have all my steroids. I have my there's like injectable L-carnitine and injectable amino acids. I got my adenosine monophosphate and all this shit, right? I go in my room. I say, hey, I'm going to take 200 mgs of TNE, Tesno ester, which is basically test suspension, but in oil, right?
Yeah.
So I take 200 mgs of TNE before leg day. I shoot it in my calf, right? Mm-hmm. And then I look at the other drugs. I'm like, let me take some injectable branched-chain amino acids. I pull out some injectable branched-chain amino acids. I shoot my leg with injectable amino acids. Then I'm like, you know what? I still want to keep shooting shit because, I still have some time. I go and I some injectable arginine that I got from a company, right? So then I'm shooting that, right? And then I'm like, you know what? I'm going to shoot some L-carnitine too. So I load up another 3cc syringe. I shoot some carnitine. Then I look at the adenosine monophosphate, and I'm like, I want to shoot that too. So I load that up and I shoot that in my vein. I end up going in that steroid room with the mindset of just shooting Tesno ester and walking out 5 minutes later. I end up staying in that room for 20 minutes shooting everything that I see, right? So I had one scare, Dave. I got a new batch of adenosine monophosphate, which opens you up. And it's like a breathing thing. They give it to horses prior to races. It helps you breathe, brings oxygen to the muscle. So I got a new product in that it was 200 mgs per ml, but it was from a different company, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, well, I usually use 1 cc and I shoot it IV before I go to the gym. So I'm like, all right, so I shoot this new brand, which is the same exact supposed dosage, right? And obviously it was stronger. Dave, I was like, holy fuck! I thought I was gonna die. I was hyperventilating, like, because it brings all this oxygen, and I was like, my eyes were bloodshot, and I was like, and then I looked at myself in the mirror, and I'm like, you fucking idiot, right? And this was after I shot all the other shit, right? And I don't do this all the time, Dave. It's just like when I'm feeling good, like I'll take my pre-workout, and then I'll go in the injection room. And like when I'm feeling good, like, all right, I can handle all this drugs, right? And I'm shooting all this shit. And then the next day I wake up and I can't even eat breakfast because I'm so fucking exhausted. You know what I mean? And then there's this other shit, Dave, called pig's blood. It's on the market. It's the fucking, you mix it in your pre-workout. It comes like a little scooper. You take it out and you throw it in your pre-workout, right? It has methyltren, methyl test, halotestin, like Viagra, DMMA. It's like a pre-workout blend, and it tells you like only take this once a week because it's toxic. And you put it in your pre-workout. It's like a little scoop, and then you mix it up, and you can't even taste it, right?
Right.
So I'll take it once a week, and I'll be like, you know what? I'm feeling really good today. I'll take it again. So then I take it a fucking again, and then the next day I'm toxic as fuck. You know what I mean? So the product is truly only used for once a week use.
Right.
But I looked at myself in the mirror when I took that adenosine monophosphate. And I'm like, I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, you fucking idiot. Like, if you get a new product and like start low, like, you know what I mean? And like, I do all these dumbass things, but then I keep doing them because I'm a fucking addict. And I'm not the only one. I'm one of the ones that likes to admit it because a lot of these guys are the same way, Dave. Like, I know it because I talk to them. You know what I mean? I talk to some of these guys and they're the same way. So if I'm an addict, and I'm doing shit that a coach doesn't tell me to do. A coach would never tell me to do that. And I 100% believe Matt when he said he didn't tell Dallas to take 5 grams of test.
Right.
I know that, but he did know that Dallas was taking massive amounts. He knew that, but he just looked the other way because he knew he knew that whatever he told Dallas, it didn't matter because Dallas was going to do it anyways.
So you think Dallas was doing just more stuff on his own?
100%, 1,000%. Because
did you ever talk to Dallas yourself personally about?
Yeah, he lied to me. He told me he never even would take insulin. I asked him a question maybe a few months before he passed. I said, "Hey Dallas," I said, "what's your input on having dietary fat like mac oil or healthy fats while insulin is active. And he said, I can't answer that question because I don't have experience with insulin. I've used it a couple times, but I can't use it because my blood sugar dropped too much. But on the other hand, John O'Regan told me he had him doing like fucking massive amounts of insulin.
Oh, really?
And he loved insulin. So if John O'Regan had Dallas in 2012 when Dallas turned pro, or 2013, if he had him on already 2 to 3 grams of test in 2013, do you think in 2017 or when he passed away that he's going to be anything lower than that? No, these guys move up. They don't move down.
Right.
So Chad even said when I got Dallas from Matt, I cut his doses in half. And I've seen Matt's protocols before Dallas passed away. Yeah. And Matt's protocols were very high before Dallas. After Dallas passed, it really hit him because I have actually told a few people, like, you should probably reach out to Matt because he's not gonna baby you with the doses. And I don't like Matt for the way he conducts his business. But ego aside, I'll give him referrals if I think he'll push somebody. But now, Dave, he makes most of his guys, not the top guys, but his amateurs, he makes them get clinical blood work like every 6 months.
Right.
He makes them cruise for at least, he makes them come off the heavy cycles. He tells them to get all this fucking shit done. He tells them to take all these health stuff. So since Dallas passed, he has changed. I think that scared him a little bit.
Right.
And he has definitely changed, and his dosages are exactly what he told you. He has his guys do like 1.5 grams a test.
Well, maybe he learned his lesson. Yeah, he gets scared of him.
But before that, Dave, he was crazy. He used to do crazier stuff. And it's funny because he messaged me in 2013 asking me for drug advice for one of his clients that was doing collegiate nationals. And he was a humble kid, Dave, very humble kid. And, the whole bodybuilding thing got to him. He started training some pros, and it got to his head, and his fucking ego erupted. And unfortunately, that happens with a lot of these kids, is they start out with a good intention, but the bodybuilding industry just gets to them, and they just get so, it's all about the fame and all this shit. Right, and, that's unfortunate. But, I definitely am happy that I'm able to get this off my chest about the deaths, because a lot of these guys, they think, I'm just a user, I'm not an abuser. And it's like, what's the difference between a steroid user and abuser? I understand if you take massive amounts of steroids, that's going to be unhealthier in the long run. But, are you really going to say, he uses that much, this and that? They're all addicts at the end of the day, you know what I mean?
I asked you, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, what you loved the most in life, and you said steroids. Is the answer still the same today?
Well, I love my kid.
More than steroids?
100%. If my kid...
All right, that's progress.
If my kid grows up and he was he's so anti-steroid, it would be hard, Dave. It would be really hard, but I definitely have changed in that aspect. I look at my kid, Dave, when he's sleeping with Ariella, when he's playing, and I just look at him, you'll just catch me just staring at my son because, I love him that much. But, I don't know if I ever answered that about, steroids. I definitely don't have that same addiction that I did, but it's still in me that, for instance, I haven't taken a shot of test or any drugs in 8 days because I got my blood work done, and I fell off, so I just came off everything. And I'm going to start back up tomorrow. So I'm either all or nothing. I either go crazy or I just don't do anything at all. No, definitely not the same answer as I gave you. Did I really say that?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. If I had time, I'd pull the clip, but it's somewhere out there.
Wow. Fuck. I'm surprised. But you know what? The better answer to that was what I love most was drugs, because
you're not really a drug addict. You like steroids. You're a steroid addict.
I don't do any recreational drugs, Dave, but as far as the bodybuilding drugs, I'll use everything. If someone says, hey, Bostin, I've tried EPO, if it's in the bodybuilding community, I've used it.
You said you've used Nubane, though, right?
Yeah, I got like a few ampules of that stuff, and I really like that stuff. But like I liked it so much that I was so glad that I couldn't get more of it, Dave. But I only did use it one time a week on leg day, so it wasn't like something I was like using every day.
Right.
But when I ran out of those, I was like, you know what though, Dave? This is another addict thing. I when Ariella was pregnant, she was in the hospital.
Yeah.
I had like 2 doses left of Nubane, and it was in the ampule, but I had opened it up, right? And I left it on my counter, and I guess Nubane is water-based.
Yeah.
So when I came back from the hospital, it was dried up. And
tell me you reconstituted it.
Oh, no. It was like crystallite. Like there's no coming back from that. It was just dried up, and it looked like it just was gone. And I was pissed. I was like, fuck, I wanted to use it. So there you go. You could say I was addicted to that, but I only used it, I think, probably 5 times because I only had 2 ampules.
Gotcha.
A buddy of mine had an addiction and he wanted to get it out of his house. That was one drug though, Dave, that I really liked.
That's why people got addicted to it. Believe me.
Yeah, I took it and I was like driving to the gym like this fucking shit. Like I feel great. Like I want to just talk to everyone and I want to just train and there was no pain during training. Like the lactic acid buildup, it just didn't even affect me. But yeah, that was a drug that I did try. But as far as other drugs, I don't really use them. But Dave, are you serious? You think I could have reconstituted that shit?
I don't know. I figured knowing you that you don't like to waste anything with your OCD, I figured you would have reconstituted it.
So you think the water just evaporated?
Yeah. The whatever the base is that it's in. I don't remember what base it's in.
And you think the actual drug was in the
yeah, where the drug can't evaporate into air. Only the liquid.
You're saying if I shot a little bit of bacteriostatic water in there, mixed it up with a needle and shot it, I could have got some shit? You
probably would have, yeah.
Fuck.
I don't know if water alone would have solubilized it, but it's possible. You might, because I don't know what, you got to look and see what the ingredient list is on the thing. But yeah, you just evaporated the water off, that's all. But although, I don't know how sterile it would have been. But you don't seem to care about sterility, so.
No, I shoot dirty stuff.
Yeah. What do you think about the upcoming Arnold Classic? Who's your prediction for this?
I'm very interested, Dave. I'm very interested. You know, Sergio Oliva Jr., me and him were cool. Like, I met him at Gold's Venice, like, in 2017.
Right.
My dad was having his heart surgery, and during his recovery, I went down to Gold's Venice to get a workout in, and Sergio was training there, and I talked to him. He gave me some peanut butter, some from his company, Sinister Labs. I ended up sending him out of my generosity, out of my heart. I ended up sending him a care package with synthol, peptide. I'm serious, Dave. I sent him a care package, right, of all this shit. And this is when I owned 3cc Research. So I sent him a bunch of peptides. I go, hey, Sergio, like I just wanted to.
Bostin, you want to open up, like, you know how like people around the holidays, like Christmas, they do those baskets, gift baskets. You ought to have the Bostin Loyd 3cc gift basket for the holidays. You know, buy your bodybuilding, boyfriend's a gift basket for me. You could have syringes in there and bottles of like chemical research stuff and who knows what else you could put in there.
If it was legal, I would do it. But anyways, I sent him all this shit, and never ever got like a thank you. Or I asked him, hey man.
He probably didn't want to admit that he got it from you. That's why. I don't blame him.
He admitted he got it. I was like, hey, did it land? He's like, yeah, my roommate got it. And this is when he was in Venice.
Right.
And I was like, hey man, did you use it? And I never got a true answer from him. So who knows? But anyways, I liked him. Like I felt like he was an honest person. Yeah. And he would come on your show, and I liked his personality. So we talked at Venice. He was fine. And then just recently, like 2 months ago or something, I had made a post upset that this Asian guy at a bodybuilding show got robbed at a show. And and Sergio got on there because he's a Chris Aceto nut hugger. And he gets on the fucking thing, and he's like, you're wrong, Cody. Cody should have placed where he should have placed. I'm like, dude. The Korean guy was a far much better bodybuilder. He got fucking robbed. Everybody was on my side except Sergio because he was obviously this guy was trained by Aceto. And he started getting like personal with me, which I thought it was funny. So then I called him. I was like, Sergio, you got no back. And dude, he lost it. He ended up unfriending me. I still follow him because I think it's funny. So that I called him Sergio the Latless Wonder.
Oh my God.
He lost his shit, Dave. Like
but you know how to get under the skin of these bodybuilders because you know how very sensitive they are about these things.
The Latless Wonder, and for like 3 days straight, he started making back posts. Like,
oh really?
Saying like, look, my back is supposedly weak. He was making like posts of his back and shit. And I'm like, you know what, Sergio? Like, you come on Dave's show, you act like nothing affects you. Like, you're like this cool guy, and like, oh, you know, like you're honest with yourself. And I was honest with you and said you had no fucking back, and you fucking went crazy. So it's funny how these guys will go on your show and act like they don't care what people think or this and that.
Yeah.
And you're honest with them, and they go crazy.
Yeah. What he should have done is he should have to deal with you is you have to challenge, you have to meet your criticism head on. You have to make fun of yourself even more because then that neutralizes your comment. You know, that's what he should have done.
Yeah, but he was like, you said I had no back.
I know. He took it personally, that's why. Rather than just break your balls back and say, yeah, you're right. Too bad I don't have a back.
I'm gonna give you an Arnold prediction, Dave. I'm gonna say Ramy.
Yeah.
Bonac. I think Josh Lenardowitz is going to shock some people.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Lenardowitz, Cedric.
What about Dexter?
Yeah, and I'll have Dexter in fifth. Something was off at Dexter at the Olympia. He had a distension at prejudge. I think that they gave him a blessing because something was up with his stomach that I'd never seen before.
Yeah.
What are your predictions? Top 5.
You know, look, I think it's Ramy's show to lose, but I think Bonac has been the most consistent guy in that lineup over the last couple of years. So I put Bonac as the favorite with the Ramy with an asterisk, meaning that if Ramy brings it, which we've been, you know, he hasn't really brought it too many times in his career, I don't think anyone can touch him when he brings it. So it could be a Ramy landslide or it could be a Ramy disappointment with a Bonac victory. And, you know, I think those are the two scenarios we're most used to seeing. But then you got guys like Patrick Moore in there. You got a guy like Dexter who's dangerous. Cedric is a coin flip. You don't know what you're going to get until you see him the day of the show. So there is a lot of potential there to see, you know, some big upsets. So if everyone's off.
For you, Dave, Sergio versus Patrick Moore, who do you have winning that?
I think they match up very, very, very well. I think that I'd like to see that call out, those two guys. I think they're going to be right. I think they're going to place right next to each other, and I think they both can place in that top 5.
I'm interested in that because Patrick Moore seems like a good guy. Sergio took some shots at him on your show recently. He didn't mention his name, but we knew exactly who he was talking about. He took some shots at him saying like, oh, he's not going to do well. But I think those two are pretty even, right?
Yeah, I agree. Only because I think that Patrick still can use a little more size, but he's added size since the Olympia.
You got Sergio, who's bigger, who has bigger muscle bellies, who has bigger quads. Sergio can come in good condition, but he showed also that he could come in shit condition too. And then he had those lumps in his ass at those injection lumps at one of his shows, and his conditioning was looked off. But I think they match up well. But Patrick Moore does have the better shape. So I think it's going to come down to conditioning on who wins that matchup.
Yeah, you know, like I said, it's a great lineup because it is really an Olympia lineup, and you know, it might be more exciting than the Olympia because especially if Ramy and Bonac are at their best with Dexter right in there, you know, with maybe a Cedric wild card. And then, of course, you got, like you said, Lenardowitz, you got an Akeem Williams. You got guys in there that are heavy hitters that have a lot of muscle mass that could potentially, you know, spoil the apple cart, so to speak, as Sean Wright would say. But, you know, and then, of course, Sergio and Patrick Moore are probably your two wild cards in that lineup because these are guys we know have the potential to do really well, but will they bring it on the day of the show? Obviously, working with Aceto, you're pretty much guaranteed they're going to be in shape, but will the look that they bring to the stage be what the judges are looking for? So, I mean, I'm happy that I'm going to see the show. It's going to me, it's enjoyable as a fan.
Cedric got that sponsorship with Redcon, and supposedly he's been able to really focus on this show. So who knows, man? He could win the show, right? Him at 100%.
Yeah, he's just so inconsistent. It's really.
but him at 100% could win.
Yeah, but he's also not a young guy anymore. You know what I mean? I haven't seen Cedric, be that dominant since that Arnold performance. So, has he passed his prime? Is he still? I think Tony Freeman hit a point in his career where he couldn't dominate shows like he did, but he was still so good structurally that he was placing top 3 at all the top shows because he's just structurally was so good. But he wasn't what he was in 08, where he was, he probably should have won the Olympia. So I think Cedric's at that stage of his career now where he's so good structurally that he still can sneak by, win some of the smaller shows, but I think he has a tough time against really difficult, deep lineups. And his inconsistency doesn't help the process as well. So you don't know what you're going to get, but even a great Cedric at this point in his career still might not be good enough to beat some of these other guys in the lineup. So,
and who qualifies for the Athleticon?
I don't know how that works. I thought isn't that an invite-only show?
I don't know, but I mean, I know that they're going to be paying good money for that show.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? Anything that brings money into the sport, I'm in favor of. So I think The Rock is doing a great thing, and I think that it's just going to make bodybuilding that much bigger to have a guy who has the celebrity, angle that he has with all the contacts to bring in sponsorships. That's good for the sport. I'm happy that The Rock is competing against the Olympia and the Arnold. Let him. That's going to raise the level of those shows.
They're not interchanged with the IFBB.
Oh no, it's all IFBB. It's an IFBB show.
Athleticon.
Athleticon is an IFBB pro show. Yeah. It's a sanctioned pro show.
So if The Rock wanted to do his own show that wasn't IFBB, he could probably do that too,
yeah,
right?
but you know what? Why should he? I mean, he's in with those guys. You know what I mean? His ex-wife, Danny Garcia, is very tight with the IFBB and the NPC. So I don't see any reason why The Rock has to leave. No one's restricting him in any way. He can do whatever he wants. He's got a sanction. It's always, look, he can give away a lot of money, but the bottom line is people want to do his show so they can qualify to do the Olympia, by winning his show, so they can get the money and go to the Olympia. People don't want an either or. Guys want to make money, but they also want to be on an Olympia stage, because after all, the Olympia is the Super Bowl of bodybuilding. And so at the end of the day, and I know some guys might not admit it, but I would have admitted it, I would have competed for free. I would have paid to compete because that's how much I love bodybuilding. Same thing with these guys. They love making money, but the truth is that they would compete for free if that's what it came down to.
So you don't think the Athleticon will ever be greater than the Olympia?
It might have more money than the Olympia, but it'll never have a better title than the Olympia. It might have more TV exposure because of The Rock, but it won't have the swag aspect of saying, "Hey, I'm Mr. Olympia." So they're mutually exclusive. People thought the Arnold show was going to displace the Olympia. It didn't. It's a great title. You get to talk to Arnold and get interviewed by him. But at the same time, it's a huge show, but it's not better than the Olympia because the Olympia is the pinnacle in terms of titles. Maybe, like I said, the prize money may get higher at the Rock show at some point, but that doesn't matter. Bodybuilders don't compete for money. They compete for titles and for accolades, so they can say, "I'm Mr. Olympia." And that'll always be the case,
Sounds good. Well, I appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, Bostin. I love when you call me up and you're fired up about something. Don't go too crazy with the drugs anymore. You got it, son. That's the most important thing in your life. You just admitted it to me on the show. I will hold this over your head. So don't do destructive stuff. We love you. Are you going to? You're not going to the. Oh, you don't go anywhere. You're not going to the Arnold, are you?
Yeah, I'm shocked that your wife's letting you go. She usually has you on lockdown.
Well, you know what it is when you have three. You have one kid. When you have 3 kids, it's very hard to travel, and I actually feel very guilty, to be honest with you, traveling because I don't want to have to leave her with 3 kids because it's you. You know how difficult 1 is. 3 is a nightmare. My kids are not good kids in terms of going to sleep easy. They're very high maintenance, and my son has got a lot of energy, probably like I did. I'm getting paid back for when I was a kid. And so it's tough to leave her. So that's why I don't really go anywhere. I have to go to my friend's funeral this week, too, and I'm going on Thursday and Friday, and I feel bad leaving her those 2 nights because I'm going away the next week. But sometimes you got to do stuff. The Arnold is an important show. The Olympia is an important show. She understands that, and she understands it's also for business. So I'm happy that she's understanding in that sense. But you know what? I really don't even want to go. I want to go, but I don't want to go because I understand. But once my kids get a little older and they're a little more mature, it'll be much easier for me to go on these trips, and stuff like that. But it goes fast. How old's your son now?
That's a whole other topic, though. But I do respect that, because there's a lot of guys with kids that are coaches that will leave their wives at home and go to the shows every weekend.
Oh yeah, I don't know how to do that. I don't understand.
Dave, I will never go to another show. Every weekend will be spent with my family, and that's a fact. So I'm the same as you, man, and it's not because Ariella is forcing me. It's because that's what I want to do. You know what I mean?
I'm like that too. I really don't want to leave them. You know what I mean? Because they like when I'm there.
And you know too how much stress it's going to bring Amanda with 3 kids.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
That's a lot, man.
Sure. Plus my kids, they want me there. They actually they actually like Dave Palumbo. They want Daddy there along with Mama.
Exactly. They're probably like, especially at that age, they're probably like, where's Dad at?
Right. So, the good thing is we have FaceTime and you can do all that stuff, so the kids kind of can keep in touch with you while you're away, but it's not the same thing.
You'll be gone for what, 3 days?
Yeah, the Arnold is Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I'll be back Sunday, morning, so it's not too bad. It's fast. It goes fast. It's a whirlwind weekend. It's for that,
Well, Dave, you used to go to every show, so
I know. Well, that's why I got out of my system already. I don't need to go travel every weekend anymore. All right, Boston, we love you, man, and we got to get lunch one of these days. Maybe you'll come up and hang out with us.
Yeah, next time you have one of those guru courses, I want to come up.
All right, yeah, you're always welcome. You know that.
All right.
All right, that's Bostin Loyd on his opinion on coaches and gurus and drugs and all the great stuff we know that Boston loves to talk about. If you guys have any topic suggestions for Bostin Loyd, send them over my way. I'm sure Boston will be more than happy to come on and discuss them. For now, though, I'm Dave Palumbo for another installment of Live With. We'll catch you next time.